Oriire funowo, good tidings to you. I pray that you're feeling awake, aware, and elevated in mind, body, and spirit, wherever you are, and whatever may be happening around you. Ashe, Ashe, Asheo. I'm Baba Umar, Oluranse Emese, voice of the MSA, member of the Isoro Traditional Council of Chiefs in Ile-Ife, Nigeria, Oluwo of the House of Umar, and Babalao of Ile-Ife, Orisa, the House of the Mysteries of the Orisa. Excuse me. Opo Ire, abundant blessings to our Egbe, our online community of subscribers that continues to grow thanks to you. Thank you for joining us for another lesson and for clicking that like button. That's your way of helping us to grow this channel by communicating with the YouTube algorithms to let more people be exposed to this channel. Remember that as a member of our YouTube Egbe, you can support each other's spiritual journey by posting your questions and uplifting comments in the comment section below. You can also email me using the link in the description below if you need to contact me on a more personal matter for consultation or divination. Also, check the community section of this channel for periodic messages, the monthly Ita Dogun reading, and additional Ifa lessons. If you're new to these video lessons, we invite you to go ahead and click that subscribe button and notification buttons and share this resource with your family, friends, and associates. You'll be helping to build our online community, and you never know whose life you may change by that simple act of sharing the wisdom of Ifa. Ashe, Ashe, Asheo. Homage to the one who sends and to those who are sent. Homage to Orisha and Egun. Our topic for this video is the 16 Truths of Ifa, Truth 8. We are part of the universe, the multiverse, in a literal, not figurative way. So, the MSA, the ancient and living repository of the Ifa spiritual tradition of Orisha and Ancestor worship, defined my title and role as Oluranse as, and I quote, the voice, vision, and authority of ways and practices of our tradition and culture, as well as being the source of sacrosanct and factual dissemination of information on the knowledge and wisdom of Orishas to the new world, end quote. The language used in describing my role tells me that my responsibility is not only to present the sacrosanct and factual information of the Ifa tradition, Isha'ro, to you, as understood and practiced by our ancestors, but also to present that information in a way that speaks to the realities of this new world that is coming into existence as we shift from the third stage of creation through the fourth stage of creation and into the fifth stage of creation. That means my Ori is guiding me to facilitate a convergence of the old and the new by looking at modern scientific discoveries through the lens of Isha'ro and looking at the Isha'ro through the lens of modern scientific discoveries. You're studying these video lessons because your Ori has called you to take this journey with me to arrive at a higher level of consciousness and a deeper understanding of this experience you are having in the Loja. You came to Ifa because you want to improve your own life and the lives of those you came into the world to serve. Now we say, in the beginning there was nothing but the isha'ro, the black material of the darkness from which all things come. It first manifested sentience, consciousness, and the Ashe became self-aware, Olofi-dumare. From this beginning, all things have come into existence according to a plan. That plan and the fundamental laws that govern it are essentially the same for all things. Interconnectedness, interrelatedness, and interdependence. There is nothing that stands alone or that exists outside of the consciousness of Olofi-dumare, Orisa, source. And there is nothing self-limiting about the nature of source. According to the Holy Odu Osa Ogunda, the 202nd Odu, there are 5 parts or stages of creation that were meant to achieve the earth's perfection. In the Ifa creation story, it states, and I quote, "In the space of no time and nothingness, there was only one being, Akamara, a being with no flesh, no blood, no human form, neither overly masculine nor overly feminine. Akamara exists just as it is. Akamara is the consciousness of the entire galactic universe, the living universal spirit." And we say the entire galactic universe, we're saying not just our universe that you and I live in and are aware of, but the entire multiverse, all of the billions of universes that exist in creation. Everything that you see around you was the creation of Akamara's cool breath. Through their breath, it gave us all life. End quote. Notice in this last sentence it says, through their breath, which is indicating that Akamara is thought of both as an entity and as a multiplicity of intelligent forms. We'll deal with that more later in another lesson. That's a deep subject. These words from the Ifa creation story affirm for us that the manifest world and the life that inhabits it is from a single source, a living universal spirit or consciousness. The idea that every aspect of creation is from a single source points us to the scientific theory that we have discussed in previous lessons, the theory of quantum entanglement. A review of previous lessons or a simple Google search on keywords quantum entanglement will give you the understanding that we are inextricably connected to the universe and to each other. So, Truth 8. We are part of the universe in a literal, not figurative way. Quantum physics predicts that particles that become entangled form a special connection with each other. This suggests that 2 or more particles that can be brought together and become fundamentally linked so that even when they are separated, even by great distances, it's no longer possible to describe them independently of each other. We'll touch more on the idea that separation is an illusion. We'll cover that in the next part of this topic. Quantum entanglement is a phenomenon in which entangled systems exhibit correlations that cannot be explained by classical physics. It has recently been suggested that a similar process occurs between people. People can become entangled, and in fact, we are entangled, and it explains the anomalous phenomenon of healing that takes place between individuals and groups. One of the ideas that can be gleaned from quantum physics is that the Baba and his Pele, you and your Obi, the Baba and you, his client, and the thoughts, prayers, and sacrifices of the devotees are all entangled with each other, or in a state of isopo, connectivity, or interconnectedness. This also applies to you and me as members of this YouTube Egbe. We are connected to each other. Even though our contact is through these video lessons and not in person, we are nonetheless connected as though we are in each other's presence. Let's consider a few related ideas to make this clear. Henry Ford, everybody heard Henry Ford's name. Henry Ford once stated, quote, "Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you are right," end quote. The implication of that is that your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and emotions produce physical consequences and representations in the world around you. We say in sociology, what you believe to be true is true in its consequences. Doesn't mean that it's true. It means that it's going to have an effect. If you believe it to be true, it's going to have an effect in the world that you live in. Billy Carson, if you look in my on the channel, you'll see that I have a playlist of videos by Billy Carson, so you can see what it is that he's saying and the perspective that he's coming from. But Billy Carson has stated, quote, "When we think about something, that thought energy, that vibration is radiated out to the universe as a whole," end quote. The implication is that your thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and emotions can shape and reshape your reality. Our consciousness exists and occurs within the unified field of universal consciousness, or what some are referring to as the matrix of the divine mind. In other words, your Ori is not limited in its access to knowledge or spiritual power. Iwa Pele is the sign or expression of an individual's personal God, your spiritual Ori, the carrier of your destiny. Iwa Pele is your state of perfection. Hence, Truth 8. We are part of the universe, the multiverse, in a literal, not figurative way. We're not here in this body and looking out into the universe. We are here in this body experiencing ourselves as the universe. Let's consider the water research of Masaru Emoto regarding this state of connectivity and the ability of our thoughts to affect, well, in this case, in the case of his research, to affect water and other things that are connected to the water, even at a distance. In his research, he puts a small amount of rice in a small amount of water in 3 separate jars. He then subjected each of those containers to 3 different conditions for a specific period of time. This is deep. The rice in one jar, he subjected to positive thought energy. Positive thoughts like gratitude and love. The rice in that jar, that container, produced a pleasant smell, and the rice remained healthy. In condition 2, rice is put in the water in the jar and is exposed to negative thought energy like hate and unworthiness. Guess what? The rice in that container fermented and turned black. Now, there's no physical contact between the person or group sending this thought energy to the rice and water. There's no physical contact. They're not doing anything to it other than the initially putting it in the jar and then thinking these thoughts toward those particular jars. In the third case, the third scenario, the rice is put into the water in the jar and is ignored for the period of time that the others are being exposed to positive and negative energy. The rice in that third condition began to rot. Think about this. Think about this. Now imagine that instead of the containers of rice, these were your children or your spouse being subjected to these 3 conditions. If the positive thought energy produced a pleasant smell and healthy rice, and the negative thought energy, hate and unworthiness, produced fermented and blackened rice, and the third condition, being ignored, caused the rice to rot, what happens when we treat each other that way? What happens when we think those kinds of thoughts about people near us or people that we know or think about, even at a distance? Does the same principle apply? Does the same result occur? And what the research, the quantum physics, what the research in quantum physics says, and from my standpoint as a quantum sociologist, it says yes, we affect each other because we are entangled with each other. We come from a single source. Can you see why this is so important? Why it's so important for you to understand this truth of Ifa and to live according to Iwa Pele? Can you see why it's important to think, speak, and act with integrity and authenticity? Can you see why it is so important to keep your heart and mind radiating the vibrations of empathy, compassion, gratitude, and love towards Mother Earth and all of her children in all of the kingdoms, forces, elements, vegetal kingdom, animals, humans, and others? Because we affect each other, even at a distance. Consciousness is not manufactured in the brain. The brain is tapping into a field of information, universal consciousness, that is present everywhere and accessible to everyone with the knowledge of how to apply the metaphysical and spiritual laws of the Loja. In fact, your thoughts, words, emotions, beliefs, and actions are affecting everyone, all the time, whether you or they are aware of it or not. Take an example of a radio. A radio can access various signals that are being broadcast across different stations. The atmosphere is filled with countless radio signals, and you can turn a dial, or, referring to you and I, refocus your attention and tap into the frequency that you're seeking or attuning to. You are a broadcast system. We are all broadcasting. In fact, everything, plants, animals, the elements, you and I, everything is broadcasting a frequency. The power of our Oriire cannot be overstated. In Odu Ifa, it says, Aboru Aboye, Ori Pele, Atete Niran, Atete Gbe Ni Kosa. Head, I praise you, who will always quickly bless your own. Koso sa tiida ni igbe lehen Oriire ni. You can bless a person before any divinity. No divinity blesses a person without the sanction of your head. Ori Pele, Ori Abiye, head, we salute you. Head that is destined to live. Eni Oriba Gbegbogo Re. The person whose sacrifice head chooses to accept, Koyo Sese, let him rejoice. Ashe, Ashe, Asheo. Now remember when we were discussing Truth 5, which stated you should grow and obtain wisdom during your life process. In that lesson we stated, quote, as we grow and obtain wisdom, our perceptions and interpretations of our experiences, our reactions and responses to those experiences, and the stories we tell ourselves about the choices we have made all change. We change. The chemistry of our Jubo, our body temple, changes. The Ashe Ami, unique energy signature, changes. And we become a new and evolving being in the Loja. The fifth truth points to the process and ceremony each of us must go through to claim our birthright. The Loja does not squander its abundance. It challenges the weak and the lazy. The Loja supports life and growth. To claim your birthright, you must demonstrate that you also support life and growth. That requires learning and striving to master the spiritual laws of the Loja, the wisdom of Ifa. So you got to put some work into this. You want Ifa? You got to put some work into it. You want to live your life as a devotee of the Ifa spiritual tradition? You're going to have to put some work into it. And as we've said many times, it's not just about beads. It's not about pots. It's not about staffs. It's not even about prayers and ceremonies. It's about what you do with your consciousness, how you nurture your Oriire, and how open you are to the wisdom that your Oriire is bringing to you. That's where it all starts. That's the key, the power of your Oriire. This present truth of Ifa that we're discussing, Truth 8, calls us to grow into the wisdom of the universal law of Isopo, connectivity. This post is intended to facilitate that process of growth in each of you. Why? Because as we have discussed in previous lessons, Itelo, expansion, is also a universal law that governs everything, including your journey in the Loja, the marketplace. Ifa does not limit your pursuit of knowledge and wisdom in the Loja. It in fact encourages it. Ifa doesn't say, oh, don't look over there. Oh, don't consider that idea. No. Ifa says, follow the guidance of your spiritual Oriire, and if in doubt, turn to Orunmila and the process of Ifa divination to assist you in hearing and understanding the guidance that your own spiritual Oriire is sending to you, your physical Oriire, all the time. Let's draw this part of our discussion to a close with a quote from a metaphysical and spiritual resource called The Mystical Kabbalion. Quote, no student will ever make any progress in spiritual development who flits from system to system, first using some new thought affirmations, then some yoga breathing exercises and meditation postures, and following these by an attempt at the mystical methods of prayer. Now, each of these systems has its value. Don't get me wrong. All of that is important, but that value can only be realized if the system is carried out in its entirety. Those activities are the calisthenics of consciousness and aim at gradually developing the powers of your mind. The value does not lie in the prescribed exercises as ends in themselves, but in the power that will be developed if they are persevered with consistently and over a period of time. End quote. This is also true regarding your Ifa practice. In Ifa we say, Awe ati ebo ni muni ribi Orisha. Fasting and rituals transform us into the image of the Orisha. Clearly, fasting for a few days or a week and then abandoning the practice will not bring about the desired and intended results. There is something that will happen to the body, mind, and spirit over the course of a persistent practice of intermittent fasting, or the Oshe Ifa ceremony, which you should be performing every 4 days now. Likewise, knowing your crowning Orisha is not sufficient and brings you little benefit unless you seek to understand the characteristics of the Orisha and recognize and remember that the locus of that Orisha's Ashe Ami energy signature is there for you to tap into so that you can interact with those sentient energies and remember why you chose to have that Orisha or Orishas come with you and support you on your journey in the world. You have to dig deep. Further, it benefits you little to believe that your ancestors, your Egun, continue to live after their transition from the Loja, but you fail to seek their assistance or even acknowledge their ongoing presence in your daily life. The experience of knowledge sought after and then applied is the birth of wisdom. Knowledge sought after and then applied. You can study as much Ifa as you want, but if you don't take what you're getting from these lessons and apply it in your everyday life, you will not derive the benefit. And in fact, what you will do is undermine your faith and confidence in Ifa as a path that you can follow. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. I want you to go back and review this lesson, take it to heart, and we'll continue with part 2 of this topic in our next video. Ki Olofi-dumare Orisha ati egun fifune ni itona imoye ati opo ire. May Olofi-dumare Orisha and Egun bestow on you guidance, wisdom, and understanding, abundant blessings. Ifo Kanbale, peace of mind from Olofi-dumare. Mogbogba ni nutio, I believe in you. Alafia ati Ife, peace and love. Ajo lo, ajo bo. We go out together, we return together. Ashe, Ashe, Asheo.